Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pizza Time Chronicles. It is time to get lost in the pizza sauce. Everybody, it is a great day. I have a great guest today. We have Elizabeth Maldonado. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be on.
And Elizabeth, let people know who you are.
Okay. My name is Elizabeth Ann Maldonado. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I'm a San Antonio, Texas native, and I work with at-risk youth and adults who don't have their high school diploma yet. And we work at getting them their diploma, earning their diploma, and then we give them transition assistance to either go to college or get some vocational training. And we even help them to find jobs. We do resume writing, we do letters of interest, just everything that encompasses like the transition assistance after the diploma. And I'm doing some public speaking, and I'm also doing an author. I just wrote a book. This was in March of last year. It's called Hope Drives, and it's overcoming adversity. And so it's just things that I think people need to know in order to be successful in life. And so many times we come across things that are adverse, and just knowing how to deal with it and keep moving forward.
That's amazing, Elizabeth. And today's episode is dedicated to education. Education is important, but as well as that, it's never too late to start something and to earn something like your high school diploma. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess we can just jump right into the questions. Elizabeth, why do you feel education is important no matter what stage you're getting your education in?
I think it's just a solid foundation that you can have. Jobs come and go. You can have a job today and then tomorrow, like the business is no longer there. But your education, you will always have that. That's something that nobody can ever take away from you. And when you have a solid foundation to build from, everything that is built on top of that is going to stand. And so it just makes you a well-rounded person. And we have people who are much older in life who come and get their diploma. I have a couple ladies whose husbands had passed away, and their husband was always the breadwinner, and they said, okay, now I've got to do something. And they felt so empowered once they were able to get those better jobs and get the trainings that they wanted. And a lot of them really just excelled, and it just makes you feel better. It makes you feel like you have a better opportunity to make more money, and also to meet and network with other people, because when you are involved in education, it's a lifelong thing. It's not just your diploma or just your degree, but it's a lifelong thing. It's a learning process that you can never know all there is to know. And there's a lot of opportunities to meet people that are like-minded. And when you collaborate with those people, you can do all sorts of things. I think we cut ourselves short when we, think about just doing everything on our own. But when you collaborate with other people and learn from them and take their lessons and apply them, you can do all sorts of things. And that's what I think I love about education. I've been doing it since August of 2000. And for me, it's an opportunity to have a piece in having people move forward in life and improve their quality of life.
And how many underprivileged students were you able to help through your
Oh, we've had
services?
hundreds. We
Wow.
started in 2014, in December of 2014. And so we're now 2021. And a lot of the students I get are, I work with some of the homeless shelters here. And so some of the students I get from them or from some ministries. I get a lot of referrals from career schools too. There are people who come and say, hey, I want to, learn to cut hair, or I want to learn to, be a medical assistant and things like that. But they show up and they have no diploma. So the schools will refer them to me and say, hey, here's a person who really wants to move forward, but they need to have this first before we can enroll them. And that has worked out really well, because the students will then tell other people. And so the word of mouth is the best advertisement there is, because then they tell their personal story about how, they moved forward and how easy it was. And so then they'll tell friends and family, and they'll refer them to me as well.
I think it's great that you mentioned vocational education. I think sometimes it could be overlooked considering how many vocational jobs are available now. And,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
unfortunate that there's not enough skilled workers to fulfill those jobs. And I think they're great paying positions. I think some of these positions you're getting paid more than even if you graduated from college. I'm a college graduate, and some of my
Yeah.
friends who went the vocational route, they're making great money. They're getting certified quicker. And some of these programs are 12 to 18 months to get your certification, sometimes less, depending what you were doing.
True,
And
very true. Like
um,
with education, I mean, I mean, teachers, generally don't make a whole lot of money, right? But we do it because it's a passion that we have for helping people. It's in the helping professions, whether you're a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer, whatever it is, that's your passion. But you're right. I have had so many students who are, wanting to be plumbers or want to be electricians, or I have a lot of them that do HVAC work. And here in Texas, in the summertime, we're over 100 degrees, like it gets hot. People will pay what they have to pay to get that AC working. And I'll tell you, we've had students who didn't have a diploma, and then as soon as they got their training and got their certifications through the state and things like that, and they opened their own business, and then so they're out fixing ACs and working on that kind of thing. And they're making tons of money now, and they're really happy about having to do it because they're like, I'm in my own element. I can make my own schedule. I can, make myself available to my children. All those things matter. I know when I was teaching in the public schools, I felt like I was dead to the world because you're there all day long, and then you still come home and bring the work with you because it's that kind of job. It's not where you leave work at work. And so those things, make a difference because it affects those other domains in your life. There's got to be a good balance.
so has I know mostly, and I don't want to assume, but I can imagine a lot of adult learners, fully grown adult learners, are coming through your services because they didn't have their high school diploma. Have they been noticing that having a high school diploma was very beneficial to them?
Yes, they have. I had one lady in particular that comes to mind. Her name is Mary Jane. She came to me she did have a high school diploma. She says, "Hey, look, I learn to cut hair." And I said, "Well, sure." And she says, "Well, I need to have the diploma in order to get into the program." She finished the program really quickly. She was very motivated. I mean, this was a person that was like, "Okay, I want to run with it. I want to get this done and move on." So she did her operator's license. And then she immediately went into an instructor course for a cosmetology instructor. And now she has her own beauty school, and she's charging like $19,000 a student to enroll. And she has a waiting list of people. So to think about, she was waiting tables at one time, and now she's, charging $19,000 a student. You're like, wow, that's a huge difference in 2 years, in a matter of 2 years, her life really changed that way. And now she's teaching other people. And she is one that really motivates others. She's one of those like unofficial leaders, and really is into the ministry and things like that. So she works a lot with women, and she tells them, you can do it. I'll be there for you, and that kind of thing. And she's been one that really has referred a lot of people to me, and I love that because it's paying it forward that really matters. A lot of times, people want to do things that they get discouraged, or you have the naysayers that stick around and keep you from moving forward. But when you have those kind of people that motivate and inspire, that makes such a huge difference for the whole community.
You're obviously making a difference. You're opening doors for people who didn't believe that this was even going to be a part of their life because they didn't have that important piece of their high school diploma. How do you feel that this is your legacy now? This is how people are going to remember you. Did it hit you yet? Are you
You
living
know,
in your
I
legacy?
Right now, I mean, just recently this year, right at the end of this December, January, I did a lot of reflecting. I had a really hard year last year, and I kept, feeling like, okay, I'm stuck. I'm not moving forward. Like I wanted to grow the business and I wanted to expand, but I didn't quite know how to do that. And it's like I was saying, it's a lifelong learning thing. I hired some mentors, people to be my mentors, and people to help me with how do you expand a business, because this is uncharted waters for me. You know what I mean? It's like this is something I have never done, and I worked with the public schools for so long, and I didn't feel like I could reach those ones that fell through the cracks, and it was killing me because there were some underlying issues with a lot of the students. And I would see them and I would think, if I only had more time, or if I only had that ability to build a stronger rapport. But when you work with the public school system, they're very cautious about how close you get with a student or what kind of questions you ask the parents and those kinds of things. But when I stepped out of that and got into my own niche of my own, I can be personal with them. I can ask them all kinds of stuff, and I don't have to worry about the bureaucracy of it all. And when you can be real with people and be very transparent, they will be vulnerable and they'll tell you that this is my problem. I don't know where to go from here. What kind of things can we do? And, we have a lot of them who were uninsured and they needed, medications for depression, or we had people who had a record and needed it expunged, things like that. And just throughout all of those trial and error kind of things, I learned a whole lot. Like there's a website that we use, it's called texaslawhelp.org, and it's got every legal form you can think of. So like those expungements that would cost a lawyer thousands of dollars to do, you know what I mean? You could do on your own. You fill out the form and you just pay the cost that the county clerk asks for, and whatever the processing fee is, and they save a lot of money. But that's able to help them move forward and take something that's detrimental off of their record, to be able to get a better job, or to be able to just look better when you have a someone check your record and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I don't want that blot on my good name. So just things like that had happened. And I met a lot of counselors and doctors, lawyers, physicians assistants. We have one guy who does direct care, comes out to your home, and will do, check your vitals, and he writes scripts and all of that. And people who are insured really need that. And so it's not just about academics, but it's, teaching the whole child or the whole person. There's so many facets to education. If you can't be healthy, then you can't learn. And if you're not in a good mental state, as far as like feeling depressed or feeling anxiety, that's going to hinder your ability to learn. So we've got to address all those underlying issues before we can move forward. And it's really nice when you can collaborate with other people and make that happen.
That's amazing. And I can only imagine, coming into 2022, things are changing. A lot of people are considering this year to be their comeback year, considering what we faced the past 2 years with the pandemic. Um,
Mhm.
I really, how I lay it out is I saw 2020 as where everything stopped.
Mhm.
2021 was the reflection year. A lot of what we realized where things are wrong, where we can dabble in everything, where our talents lie, what we want to do. But now 2022 is the execution year. How,
Absolutely. I have to agree with you on that. I have for the last couple of years been thinking, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. But I never really took like a vested interest in collaborating with other people to make those things happen. And I would say, okay, I'm gonna, and then I never really executed, So now I'm like, no, I'm ready, and I'm getting older, I'm getting closer to 50. I'm 48 now. And I'm thinking, life is short and we have to do what we have to do to move forward. If we want to move to that next level, that's going to take some action. And sometimes it's baby steps, And as long as you're moving forward, even if it's a baby step, you're getting closer to your goal. So I celebrate every little step. I really do. And, but the older I get and the more that time goes on, I feel like, hey, no, I can do this. I can do it. And I just need to concentrate, and I need guidance and mentorship and things like that. But there's people out there to help you do that.
and what are your goals specifically this year for 2022?
I want to grow the business and make it more of a digital type of platform. I've done a lot of paper pencil and I've done a lot of person to person, but I think when we use the technology and really make it more adaptable to people anywhere, and they can log on and do it at their own pace, from their computer, then you're reaching more people and you're not having to have them come in. Like right now, I'm working literally from home. The people come into I have a room here in the house that I use as my office. And so people are like, you're crazy. You have people coming in, you don't even know who they are. And I'm like, I get it. I know what you're saying. But I said, I've never really had any issues, thank God. But they've all been very good and people are very grateful for the help that they get. And a lot of times I think people have that stigma of, oh my gosh, if I go, then it means that, I couldn't, go the traditional route and, I'm a failure and that kind of thing. And that's not the way to look at things. Everybody learns in a different way. I have so many people that come through that are teenagers, and I call them the twice exceptional child, because sometimes the behavior isn't where it needs to be, but their intellect is there. They're like super smart, like GT type student, but their behavior hinders their learning. And so we've got the twice exceptional child. So we've got to address both sides, because we want them to feel challenged, but we also want them to understand that if you're going to make it in this world, it's a competitive job market and you have to be ready, and you've got to have, your skills together, whether it's the personal, interpersonal skills or whether it's academics, you've got to have them all together because it's very competitive. I mean, there's one opening and there's tons of people for that one opening. So you want to be ready and you want to be prepared.
You know what I love about your services is that we already know there's huge gaps in education in America,
Mhm,
especially those
mhm,
who are disadvantaged,
mhm.
especially those not to sugarcoat it, it's coming from communities of color, Latino
Right. Mhm,
communities,
sure.
the Black community, and
Absolutely.
what's great about your service is that it fills in those gaps. It creates that flexibility that student needs, because even with public education, those disadvantaged students are still suffering because they don't feel like they can keep up, and they feel like their only option is to go to work, and they're not
Right.
fulfilling their dreams, and they don't feel like they can. But your services are basically saying, we're going to give you that ticket, and we're going to create this
Yeah.
flexibility, and then now you can pursue your dream.
No, you're right. I mean, I remember I worked as a special education teacher for years and years. And I remember at the end of the year when they do the standardized testing and then we do all of the disseminating of the information that they had, it was always eco-dis, economically disadvantaged, and then the ESL students or the LAP students, limited English proficiency. Those subsections were the ones that did the worst. And it's because we did not make that connection. I know that I get a lot of the students who are ESL and they say, I sit there and it's like some things I get, some things I don't get, but I don't have the one-on-one I need. And when you've got 30 something kids in one classroom, and you're covering, tons of information in a little bit of time, it's hard for that teacher to meet the need of every student. But the smaller group setting, I think, really makes a huge difference. And the idea of, finding resources. I know a lot of the parents will say, hey, like for math, for example, they'll come in and like, I didn't even do that when I was in school and I don't understand it and I don't know where to go from here. But there's, websites you can go to, you can lead them to, and they can, practice. And it's just finding those resources to make it happen. And I know a lot of the parents feel embarrassed to go to the teacher and say, hey, look, I don't get it because I didn't get it when I was in school. And it's the truth, but those things are, they matter. And math and science in particular builds on itself. So if you don't get that foundation, you're not going to get the rest of it. You've got to build on itself. And so that's why I believe in that total competency learning. What it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get it, but as long as you get it, because then you have a way to build from that. So that's one of my philosophies of education is it doesn't matter how long it takes you, but get it, understand it, and then you can evaluate and synthesize and all those higher order thinking skills.
And that's amazing. And Elizabeth, that's a clarifying question because I know people are going to watch this. They're going to fall in love with you and they're going to probably ask you a bunch of questions. Do you only serve students in Texas, or have you been considering
No,
about expanding?
no, I've expanded. I have some that I've dealt with people in California. I've got some in Colorado. I had a few in Louisiana. As long as it's a homeschool friendly state, which most of them are, you can use that diploma to go to either a community college, a junior college, or a traditional four-year university. The ones that are kind of picky or iffy are the career schools, because those are not required by law to have to take it. But I always tell people, be careful with those, and I'm not knocking it, but you can't transfer your credits anywhere else but that one institution. It stays there. And when you go to a junior college or traditional university, you can always transfer credit out, and you can use it to, bridge your like if you have an associate's degree and you go and bridge your education, you can go get your bachelor's, and a lot of it transfers. So those are kind of things you want to look at. A lot of times people are like, oh, they watch the commercial and they're like, hey, it's quick, it's fast, it's easy, I'm going to get in. But then, okay, how far can you take that? Can you move those credits somewhere else? Those are things to consider, especially if you're spending tons of money, and a lot of them are very expensive.
Well, Elizabeth, I really know you're gonna have this successful 2022. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
can only imagine how many students you have helped. Like you mentioned, the hundreds. Soon that's gonna become
Mhm.
thousands, maybe millions.
Oh, I
Um,
hope so.
um,
God willing. Because
I
there's need for them. It's just people don't know where to go. They really
right.
don't.
And it's like I said, your services are beneficial, and again, it's filling in those gaps. And these services, they're gonna become more and more relevant as the years go on, because a lot of students, unfortunately, when they come from disadvantaged communities, and as this pandemic revealed, you know, they don't know if they can finish, or they are facing situations where they know they can't finish, and it unfortunately pulls them away from their dreams and away from school and away from getting the education that so many of us were fortunate to receive during our time and during our youth. But unfortunately, some individuals don't return back to that, or even people my age or younger, they can't stay in school because they're practically being forced out. Um,
No,
you
you're
know,
right. I have a couple of them that I dealt with. They had all these A's and B's on their transcripts, but they could not pass the standardized test. So they got a certificate of completion instead of a diploma. But what are you going to do with that? You know what I
right,
mean? It's like you really, it's, I
right,
don't want to say it's useless, but you can't go to college with it, you know? And
right,
so they come and they're like, look, I know the content. I'm just not a test taker.
right,
And when I look at that, I'm thinking there's something wrong with the system because they obviously, if you get A's and B's all throughout all your classes, but you can't pass the test, then there's something wrong, you know? And whether it's test anxiety or whatever it is, they obviously understand the content. So, we'll sit with them and we'll put them through the program and they excel. They do really well. I have one that came to me and she's a registered nurse now. And she's another one who tells everybody about the program. She says, if it weren't for that, who knows where I'd be. And she was working retail and her mom was a nurse and she aspired to be a nurse because her mom was one. And she says, I want to keep that going. I want my kids to be, in the medical field as well. And I thought, wow, how neat, because she saw what an impact her mom was making and she wanted a part in that. So it's following your passion, whatever it takes, if you have to go in a different route or, take a different path, but as long as you reach that end result, that's all that matters. And everybody has to find what works for them. For me, I learned better in a small group and I learned that early on, but now that I know that, if I go to a conference or something, I want to sit right up front, because I know that I'm going to get more out of it rather than sit in the back because,
right.
I need to, stay focused and not distracted and that kind of thing. But those are things you learn about your own learning style. And those are the kind of things I wanted the students to figure out too. Am I an auditory learner? Am I more of a kinesthetic learner? And I sometimes I am like that. I have to like see it, feel it, taste it, before I understand it.
Right.
But it just depends on the content, and we know what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are, and we gotta compensate for those things. How can I adjust? What can I modify to make things happen so that I can get that information and retain it?
Well, Elizabeth, I know we can go another episode about standardized testing, and
Like,
for some of us who feel it's useless, like you said, we're not implying that, but we're feeling that way based on what it has shown.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, I understand that there's an accountability piece and
right,
I understand that and there has to be, right? But when you have students who have a full transcript of A's and B's but can't pass the exam, something's wrong.
right,
That kind of thing makes you go like, wait a minute.
right,
Maybe we got to revamp it, change it some way, but
correct,
something's not, on the up and up with it, if
correct,
that's what's happening to kids because you don't want to keep them from graduating
exactly,
over an exam.
right.
Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth, I usually end every episode with one question. I usually, because it's based on the show, what is your favorite slice of pizza and where is that pizza from?
Well, I would say Pizza Hut. No, actually, you know what? Not Pizza Hut. I really like Peter Piper pizza
Okay,
because their crust, I love their crust. And it's kind of got like the little cornmeal on the bottom. And I love the Supreme, a little bit of everything. That's kind of how life is. I want a little bit of everything.
that's awesome. Jose Escobar said Pizza Hut as well, so you're not the only one. He was the first one to say Pizza Hut on this show. Now we got two. This is great. Elizabeth, I'm so grateful that you can join us today
You.
on the Pizza
Thank you
Time
for having
Chronicles. I see that you have your own podcast. The Amazing You is right behind you.
me.
I'm sure that people can check you out. We'll make sure to have all your links that people can follow you. And as well, if you are interested in getting your high school diploma, I'm sure my good friend here, Elizabeth, can help you out and seek all your options. And like she said, she serves students in different states other than Texas. So you never know.
Absolutely.
Connect with Elizabeth. She's great. She is amazing. But as always, everybody, Remember, we have to get lost in the pizza sauce, but not too much because that's too much sodium. Everybody, this is Elizabeth. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank
joining
you for
us.
having.
Of course, and we have way more great guests coming on to the show. It's not just Elizabeth. We had Jose, we had Emilio, we had Daniela, we had Serena, we had Giselle, we had
Mhm.
Jose. We got way more guests coming on to the show. Thank you so much for following us. Until next time, everybody.
Bye.